Nick Mango, thank you so much for watching. We'll flip it and do it again tomorrow at 11 right here on SportsGrid.
Oh, the best part about it is that they're just going about handling their business. I was listening to Arvell Reason is literally like 5-word sentences about himself and some of the things that Caleb has been talking about. The dudes are just so locked in here about just doing their job and not worrying about all the other things and awards. They know all those happen when you go win and you win decisively.
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
Baker Mayfield is the most important player on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they are in first place right now, looking dead in the eye of home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They played a bad division. They're going to win a lot of games, and they're the best fourth quarter team, or at least the 2-minute warning team in all football. So, don't sleep on that.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Awesome and monumentous win against Oregon. Texas has saved their season. Texas has given themselves life to potentially crash the college football playoff party. For OU, a loss to Texas shouldn't be the end of your season. And yet with that remaining schedule, it feels like it could be. Books certainly pricing it that way. A lot of movement off of the Red River rivalry.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Paige or Caitlin? Who do you take and why?
I think for the WNBA, in a sense where they're moving toward more guards when it's been very post and big heavy in the past. But there's a reason why Caitlin Clark set all those records at college and then went into the WNBA and set all those records immediately. I really do think she's just a different level talent.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Baseball's postseason, the most watched in 15 years. Plus, is Giannis heading back to play basketball in Greece? Hi, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today from FOS Studios in New York City. I'm Baker Machado.
And I'm Renee Washington, and thanks so much for joining us as each and every weekday we're chatting the biggest stories in the business and culture of sports. We also have LA Kings legend and team president Luc Robitaille on later to talk hockey, but first let's dive into the headlines in the shoot-around.
Yeah, indeed. And let's start with President Trump once again, Renee, threatening to relocate World Cup matches out of cities that he deems to be unsafe. This time, he says Boston could lose its 7 matches during the tournament next year. This because of the city's Democratic mayor is, quote, no good. FIFA says the president, by the way, doesn't have the authority to move matches out of pre-selected cities, especially since it would be a logistical nightmare just 8 months before the tournament kicks off in June of 2026, Renee.
Yeah, as Trump mentioned himself, he said, I love the people of Boston. I know the games are sold out, but your mayor is not good, claiming that they are having some unrest. They're being taken over currently, and some concerns that he has. And as you mentioned, FIFA has come out multiple times and mentioning it is ultimately their decision. The FIFA vice president himself, Victor Montagliani, said it's FIFA's tournament. It's FIFA's jurisdiction, and FIFA makes those decisions. So ultimately, I don't know that President Trump has the ability to move these games, but yet again, here he is claiming he's going to take those matches out of Boston.
Yeah, and more than half of the 11 U.S. cities are run by Democratic mayors or Democratic governors. Let's move to the Big Ten as member schools USC and Michigan are voicing opposition to a $2.4 billion private capital infusion. This from a California pension fund that would receive an equity stake in a new company that would house items including the lucrative Big Ten media assets. Now, the conference would need unanimous support from those members to approve the creation of the new Big Ten enterprise entity. USC and Michigan say that private capital would provide a temporary but inadequate fix to the current issues that are facing college football right now.
Yeah, our own college reporter Amanda Kristovich has been all over this story because there's a lot of layers as this group has concerns, and they had a meeting virtually on Tuesday allegedly talking through them just to discuss the issues. Now, within this deal, as you mentioned, the $2.4 billion from the California pension, they would have about $100 million paid to each Big Ten program, and then those programs would also receive equity in the Big Ten enterprises, that media entity as well. So they're looking to try to find a way to work within this new system of college sports. But I will say for the university presidents in the Big Ten, they ultimately have to be the ones to vote. There is potential that they can do so without the approval of their board of trustees.
But the Board of Trustees have a ton of sway, but you're absolutely right. It's the presidents at the end of the day that will make that decision. Let's move to the WNBA, where FOS's Annie Costabile has learned that the expansion Portland Fire are expected to name Cavaliers assistant Alex Sarama as the franchise's first head coach, though Annie says no contract has been finalized. However, news of the hire was mistakenly shared on the Fire's LinkedIn account early Tuesday morning. This before they quickly deleted it. And this comes after the team's name was also prematurely leaked in trademark filings back in June as well. Ouch, who is running the social media accounts here?
We've heard a lot of premature announcements across sports, but the Portland Fire have been in the center of a few of them now. Now, when you look at what they have announced, though, they have announced that they had their new GM, Vanya Chenovich, who actually worked with Sarama during a time with the Lions in London. And so for Sarama, who's worked with Portland in capacities of the G League affiliate for the Trailblazers, was an assistant coach with the Cleveland Cavaliers for 15 months. That hire does make sense. It just doesn't make sense that we heard the news so quickly. So I know yesterday they were also announcing other news as they hired WNBA veteran Ashley Battle, who's going to become the vice president of basketball operations. And I wonder if they accidentally also hit send a bit too quickly on the other announcement. But we do know the Portland Fire will be officially announcing the hire within the next few days. It's just wild that yet again the Portland Fire are in the mix of a premature announcement.
And it also furthers what we've been seeing, a lot of NBA assistant coaches taking head coaching jobs in the WNBA. Let's move to baseball, as both the Dodgers and Mariners are up 2-0 in their league series. This is Major League Baseball having its most viewed postseason in 15 years. Sunday's Game 1 of the ALCS between Seattle and Toronto averaged 10 million viewers here in the U.S. and Canada. Let's take a look at this and other baseball headlines in today's main event. All right, let's bring in FOS reporter Eric Fisher for more. So, Eric, the Dodgers up 2-0 already here, and most of this is from pitchers that they spent big money on. Is this proving a point here that payrolls maybe matter here?
Yeah, it's interesting what's happened and developed in the last couple of days. They kind of scuffled their way all through the regular season, and not that they just scratched into the playoffs, but they were not the same old Dodgers and looked to be more weak and more vulnerable. And now it seems like all of those investments are really flexing, and particularly Blake Snell and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. They're two big starting pitcher acquisitions from the last two off seasons. Money very well spent and having a classic return to big-time starting pitching.
Yeah, and the Dodgers, in terms of their high payroll, which is one of the many storylines we've seen across the Major League Baseball playoffs in terms of drawing in excitement. And the numbers in terms of ratings also correlate to that. This is the best viewership we've seen through the postseason so far in 15 years, about a 30% increase from last year with about 4.3 million viewers through the divisional series. What do you attribute to the growth of Major League Baseball's ratings in the postseason? Because everyone loves tuning in, but this year there's even more tuning in.
Yeah, it's really a continuation of a trend that we've seen all season. Great numbers during the regular season, record numbers in the wild card round, and that's carried through now into the divisional round and now the start of the championship round. And that's even with the presence of the Blue Jays, and their numbers are not counted in the U.S. Nielsen numbers. But really what it kind of comes down to, and not only the game's been great and a lot of big personalities and big teams and dramatic moments, but these rule changes from 2023 have really made a big impact. And these games are approachable now. You're not necessarily signing up for a 4.5-hour playoff slog, that these games continue to be over in a crisp, attractive fashion, and it's bearing out in these numbers.
Yeah, let's move to questions in the offseason. One of the teams that just got out of the playoffs, the Tigers, announcing they're going to be keeping their manager, A.J. Hinch. But the one thing I think that stood out in the announcement about Hinch staying was that the Tigers say ownership plans to do everything in their power to try to keep their star pitcher, Tariq Skubal, who reportedly might be looking for maybe a $400 million contract. No pitcher has ever had that. Is that possible for the Tigers to keep him, and is it possible for Skubal to get that money?
Possible for him to get this money because he's either the best pitcher in the league or the second best behind Paul Skeens. He's right there at the top of the top of the top. And so the Tigers, there's 1 year left on his deal and under team control, and then he'll be a free agent after the 26th season. There are three options: that they could try to extend him now, they could trade him at some point between now and the end of next year, or sort of kick the can down the road and see what evolves. Right now, I think they're moving towards option 3 and seeing what happens with labor, revenue, everything else. But that's a risky game because that pushes closer to him hitting the open market. And also keep in mind that he's a Scott Boras client, and Scott's very good at maximizing his clients' value, particularly through hitting the open market. And he's not one that's been prone to push his clients towards taking early deals. No. Ultimately, it's going to come down to what Skubal wants to do. If he wants to stay in Detroit, he's probably going to have to take some sort of hometown discount and stay with the folks that brung him, so to speak, because ultimately the Tigers will not be able to match Dodger money, Met money, Yankee money. But he seems to really love it in Detroit, and so if he feels like that's his best option and best position for long-term success, he could potentially take what is less money that he could get and still the biggest contract ever for a starting pitcher.
By the way, I'm old enough to remember when Kevin Brown got $100 million. We all thought that was crazy.
Well, it is wild that we're already talking about the offseason hot stove, but also when you look at what last year brought with Juan Soto getting a historic contract, we've seen in the past it's been Yamamoto, Ohtani, so many names. If you want to even go back to Aaron Judge and Bryce Harper over the years, every year in offseason, free agency numbers seem to go up in terms of contracts. And now we recently heard Alex Bregman opting out of his contract with the Red Sox. Do you anticipate other players are going to start, as it trickles down from the Juan Sotos, to want to test the waters to see if they can also lock in a massive contract in free agency?
Yeah, there's a second tier of players below those mega names that you just mentioned that may have had a tough time initially in free agency and sort of took a shorter term deal or a deal with some options to bet on themselves. And it's really played out. Alex Bregman sort of rejuvenated his career, sort of moved past everything that happened in Houston, will certainly command a lot of interest. He's still a plus defender, good hitter who thrives in high pressure situations. I think he's going to command a lot of interest. He seemed to be very happy in Boston. I think they're going to make a play to try to keep him, but he'll definitely have multiple options.
Eric, last few seconds we got with you. Do you see the Blue Jays or the Brewers winning any games in these series?
Oh, yeah. I don't think these are going to be sweeps. I think they will at least scratch out something, but it is increasingly feeling like a West Coast World Series between the Mariners and the Dodgers.
All right, Eric, good stuff as always. Thank you so much. And we got a lot more Front Office Sports Today headed your way, including an interview with LA Kings president Luc Robitaille right after this break.
Let's do A.J. Brown. He's seems to be kind of upset with the way things are going. The Eagles will trade A.J. Brown at some point this season, buy or sell.
This is what really annoys fans about certain players. Don't you care about winning? All right, he complained last year. He won a Super Bowl, right? He was reading books, and he's blah, blah, blah. He's complaining this year, too. And he was complaining while they were winning. Yeah, of course they lost last night to the Giants there, but he had 6 catches, 80 yards. And then I think I heard him come out and say, I don't remember having an offensive meeting with Hurts and Barkley, even though it was reported that they did have a meeting. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but if they did have a meeting and he's saying he doesn't, what is going on here? Do you really want to be traded? I mean, grass isn't always greener. They're not going to trade you to a good team, right? You're certainly not going to Detroit, or San Francisco. They're not going to trade you to anybody in their own conference that's good, that could go compete with them. So just strange. Do I think he's going to be traded? No. They've come out and said he won't be traded, but that, who cares? That could just be to drive the price up if they really wanted to move him. So I'm going to sell this, but, if he really wants to be dealt, he can make life hard, keep complaining, keep doing this and that, embarrassing everybody, but really strange situation what's going on in Philadelphia. You won a Super Bowl, you'd think you'd be happy for a little bit.
I think that, I don't know, would they do this deal? I think Howie Roseman is not adverse to making deals, but George, wouldn't they have to acquire somebody like A.J. Brown to make this kind of trade? I'm going to say sell. I think he's going to stick it out with the team. I think they're going to move him in the offseason. I think they're going to move him.
Fantasy Sports Today. Fridays starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone to Front Office Sports Today with Renee Washington. I'm Baker Machado. We're already a few weeks into the new NHL season, and teams are looking ahead to not just the Olympics, but also the new collective bargaining agreement that's going to add a couple more games to their seasons. So to get some insight into how these teams are preparing for a lot of stuff this season, let's bring in LA Kings president Luc Robitaille. Luc, good to have you here. We'll get to some of those things in just a moment, but I want to talk about your team specifically and one of your best players, and that being Kopitar, announcing after 20 years that he will retire after this year. Number 11, just like you with the Kings. How do you sort of replace somebody who is such a big, important part of this organization?
Well, you'd never replace like your top player. But we've known for the last 3 years, we've talked about when is it going to be his last year. He's still our number one center, so we're like always trying to squeeze one more. But he's a very special player. I think you've been fortunate to draft like Quinton Byfield and Alex Turcotte, that we know they're going to take a step and they have a chance to replace him. But you can never replace a star on your team. And this guy's won us a couple of championships, led our team in scoring like more than 80% of the years he's played for us. So, it's one of those that it's part of sports. Players leave and you got to keep building the team. The good thing about hockey is it's always about the team. So we'll figure out a way.
Let's talk about, obviously, the success we've seen of the Olympics, the Four Nations tournament. Do you sort of feel like the NHL season sort of takes a back seat to preparations for stuff like that because of the intensity of preparing for the Olympics and also the ratings, the attention? That how does an organization like yours sort of plan for, from their players' perspective, preparing for stuff like that while also still staying in the season for the Kings to do well?
We don't take a back seat because you prepare for your season right now it's 82 games, and like you mentioned, it's going to be 84 in the future. But the schedule tightens up. So what you prepare is more the rest, how you're going to handle like the whole season and so forth. When it comes down to it, it's just the best players that go, So each team will lose one or two players, some teams three for a span of 2 weeks, and you try. It's all about rest, more importantly. Now, that being said, I do believe it's the best thing for our game. I mean, I remember attending meetings in 2007 and 8, and we were talking with Mr. Bettman and Bill Daly about doing this type of World Cup, which ended up being the Four Nation.
You guys were talking about it all the way in 2007?
After the Super Bowl, because in those days, the World Cup used to be in September. And the idea was to move it after the Super Bowl, same time as the Olympics, and every 2 years. And we're finally there. Everybody needs to be working together, but when you get there, like we saw the ratings, we saw what it meant to hockey, and I really believe for the next 12 years, realistically, it's going to be really good for us. Every 2 years, there'll be a big tournament in February, and I think it's great for our game.
And I'm curious now, as we've seen the success of Four Nations and had everybody on the edge of their seat excited, as you're mentioning, this was years in the making. What sparked that initial interest to build that World Cup style in hockey of bringing all the best teams together to compete?
Well, in Canada, back in the day, when I was a player, like in the 80s, they used to call it Canada Cup. And this tournament was huge. It was in September. The whole country would stop. The problem is no one else was watching the tournament, So you want to have something where you give everyone an opportunity. And we really believe the end of February, is the best time. So the idea, I think in 1996, there was a World Cup, the U.S. won. But again, it was in September. So hockey fans paid attention, but the rest of the world did not. So I think the fact that now we're a little bit later, you get to see the best athletes playing hockey in the world. It gives a chance for hockey to have an opportunity for growth.
Yeah, and you're capitalizing at peak hockey season, as you mentioned, in February. We've been talking about the collective bargaining agreement, which will start next year. You're going from 82 games to 84 games, which sounds crazy, but obviously you're losing preseason games to sort of make up for all of that. What's your thoughts on an 84-season grind? Will that be difficult for players? And are you anticipating, anything, different about that?
Well, we're extending the season by a week, so we're starting a week earlier. So if you think we usually play 3 games a week on an average, so suddenly we're adding a week and we're squeezing an extra 2 games. So we should be okay. Next year, too, it's the best year to do it. There's no Olympics, there's no World Cup, so we're going to have a full season, and I think the guys will get acclimated well. there's no reason for us to have 8 preseason games. I don't think it's good for the fans. So you'd rather maybe add a couple more games where there's a little bit more competitiveness. And we're down to 4 preseason games, so things have changed quite a bit, like for our players. And so realistically, they'll probably play 1 or 2 less games in a full season, funny enough.
So then, bigger picture, do you feel like this collective bargaining agreement did the best job of balancing what the players want and the teams want, as well as what fans are looking for?
Yeah, I hope that's what the fans are looking for. Fans are always looking for parity. But the Kings fans are not. They just want the Kings to win, and the Ranger fan, they want the Rangers to win. But it's great for our games. It's going to be it's going to get even tighter and tighter as the cap goes up, because everybody has a chance to compete. But at the same time, the collective bargaining agreement has been good for both sides. The union's working with the league right now, and everybody's trying to really grow the game. And we're going to work together as far as trying to get the game more viewed in Europe and so forth, and really think that's going to be good for the future for the game of hockey.
Yeah, and I'm curious though, because when you look at the growth of the NHL in terms of the CBA and the games and just so many different components, there have been rumors around expansion in general of adding new teams, whether in Atlanta, Houston's been brought up. I know Bettman himself has mentioned, no, we're not looking at expansion unless we got the right offer. Do you think the NHL needs to expand and to add more opportunities for players, or would that further dilute talent? What's your thoughts on expansion in the NHL?
I'm not big on the dilution. There's always other players that are coming in. There's a lot of good young players playing in the American League. I remember in '94 when I think we went up 4 teams, and then we went to 24, then to 28, and everybody thought it was going to be diluted. There's enough players. There's more players playing around the world, and the talent is incredible today. We really don't know what's going to happen. There's a ton of rumors. There's a lot of people. I think the good thing that's for there's a lot of people wanting to come in to our game, which that's good for us. And if it happens and we get a couple more teams in the next, I don't know how many years, I just think it's good. There's more jobs for players. There's more jobs for everyone. It's good for the game. It's growth, So I always believe into that.
And do you also think it benefits, not for dilution, but because it's a global sport, you can pull players from all over the world as a result.
Yeah, we pull players from everywhere. Our scouts travel a lot. They're everywhere around the world at all times. So it's a lot of work to scouts, but there's a lot of great talent. Like you go anywhere, like in Europe, then northern, then you go all the way to Russia, and there's great players playing everywhere.
More opportunity for more talent.
Exactly.
I like that.
Kings president Luc Robitaille. Luc, thank you so very much for joining us.
Guys.
And we have a lot more Front Office Sports today headed your way right after this quick break.
20 million too much as far as I'm concerned, but it's not like you're indebted to him or you have to follow through with him. Like, what are we doing? Try to win the damn game by bringing in a quarterback that can actually throw the ball. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what the loyalty to Fields is here and why you thought he gave you the best shot at winning that game without going to the bench.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully these go better. I'm smashed before 1 on these games. I cannot believe that this game destroyed me. Why did I get involved live? That's on me, not
That
you.
is on you.
All right.
That's on you.
You didn't have to run up the score. I said it was on me.
It was on you. You just didn't see the writing on the wall. Knee it! Let's get out of Dodge!
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Can I get an ISO? Come on. Give me the ISO over here.
Give
right
me the
here.
ISO. He wants the camera.
Look, I'm going to get nice and comfortable right now. I've been telling you people out there, yes, you people, about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. My connection to the Irish growing up as a kid, I hated that team. But they called me at the network the most unbiased man here, which means I'm giving you the information straight from the mouth here. You don't have to go anywhere. You get it from me.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I think Kendre Miller's role continues to grow in this offense. So I think as you're looking at bye weeks continuing on and looking for running back depth, as always, we all know the dynamic can change in a minute, right? We've done this so many times in the last couple of weeks. We were adding Woody Marks before his game. We were adding Brashard Smith last week. I still want to add Brashard Smith this week. I want to add the guys that I think have upside for the second half, and Kendre Miller is definitely one of those backs.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today with Renee Washington and Baker Machado. Well, the Knicks and the Raptors have dropped a lawsuit alleging that Toronto had used a newly hired video assistant to steal scouting reports. This of all proprietary information that was still happening while he was employed with the Knicks. So for more on this, let's bring in the Asset Class newsletter author, Ben Horney. Ben, good to see you as always. So tell us a little bit more about this. This is a really interesting story.
So this suit was first filed in, I believe it was August 2023. So it's been going on for a while. It was pretty contentious. It's notable, and we'll get into this, it's rare for NBA teams to sue each other like this, and yet we're here to have a whole discussion about multiple lawsuits involving teams. This video assistant who worked for the Knicks got hired by the Raptors, and the Knicks sued in federal court saying that while he was still working for the Knicks but knew he was going to the Raptors, he took all of this information to give the Raptors an advantage. The thing that is strange about this is that the NBA has an arbitration thing, a whole policy to hear disputes like this. So it was like out of bounds, so to speak, that they took this to court.
Okay. Well, it is wild because we do have less than a week until the NBA season tips off for the regular season, and a number of lawsuits kind of working their way through, getting sorted, including the Trailblazers, as we saw the Portland Fire and Thorns owners that actually filed a lawsuit against the minority owners that were involved in buying the Trailblazers. What led to the resolution of this lawsuit getting dropped?
So from what we know, Tom Dundon, who also owns the NHL team, the Carolina Hurricanes, he facilitated a deal to get this lawsuit resolved. We don't know what the specifics are or the details. It's still unclear whether the Churn family, which is the family behind Panda Express, whether they're still going to be in his deal or not. That was the dispute. It was that the Raj Sports wanted them not to be involved because Raj said that they had their own bid for the Blazers that ultimately failed, and they were supposed to work with that family. So it's not clear, and we would say that, the NBA season's starting, so the league is kind of pushing them to resolve all the lawsuits, but then there's another lawsuit, and it's not dismissed.
Yeah, and let's move to Phoenix. Obviously, there's been multiple lawsuits filed against the Suns, and Matt Ishbia, the owner there. He had said at one point that these lawsuits were cash grabs, but now he's countersuing here.
So there's been a number of suits, like you said, from former employees alleging that the work environment isn't great. This was different. This was two minority owners, the two lingering minority owners who didn't cash out when he bought the team for $4 billion a few years ago. They sued him in Delaware, saying that they haven't been transparent, they haven't provided information about what they're using money for. It all seems to center around a capital call that he was making, raising additional funds for the team, and these two investors didn't want to pay for that. Matt Ishbia countersued them this week and basically says that it's just like sour grapes on their end, that they don't want to put further money into the team, that he's put all this money in, he's made bold trades, and the Suns' play on the court hasn't reflected, what he's saying, but it is true that he has made bold trades, he has made big moves, and he has put a lot of money into the team. An attorney for the two minority owners had a pretty strongly worded statement to me, though, that basically says he's playing a delay tactic here. And that ultimately, that they will win.
And I know, Ben, that people can get all these great updates in your Asset Class newsletter that drops twice a week. But more exciting news around the Asset Class. We're taking it tomorrow, Thursday, the 16th. It's going to be a live event at the New York Stock Exchange. Tell us more about what people can expect.
Yeah, that's right. We're bringing the newsletter to life, which is always interesting. It's words on a page or on a screen. But tomorrow at the New York Stock Exchange, we're going to be holding, it's a half-day event from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. or so. We have a ton of really great guests. We have the owner of the New York Islanders, John Ledecky. We have a former Knicks president, Dave Checketts, who's now in private equity. We have David Adelman, who's part owner of the 76ers and the New Jersey Devils. We have people from Chernin Group, Andalusian Credit, the global co-head of sports for Goldman Sachs. It's going to be awesome. I'm sure that the news will be broken, and it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, that's, of course, with Front Office Sports and Dealmaker, this will be happening on Thursday, as Renee mentioned. The best part, we'll be ringing and the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange as well.
Can't wait.
Of course, you can get more information about the Asset Class event over at frontofficesports.com. Ben, thank you so much, and let's see what's bubbling over at the FOS water cooler. Well, Renee, Giannis is already preparing for life after the NBA, as the two-time MVP says that when he retires from the NBA, he plans to return back home to Greece and play for a team there. He said, quote, "I'm 30 years old. I can play in the NBA until I'm 36 or 38, and I'd like to end my career in a Greek team." Why not? Obviously.
I know. For Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's from Athens, Greece. He also started his professional career in Greece as well. I heard some reports that his wife has actually moved back to Greece with their kids, and he's one that has a lot of ties to his home country. We often see him there in the off season. We often see him just so actively involved in Greece. It actually makes sense. You've won a championship in the NBA. You've been named MVP twice. You wonder what's really left for him to accomplish. And I think this is like a personal goal to have ties back to your home roots. In addition to his brothers playing on the Milwaukee Bucks with him, to now take family back to Greece and play professionally within Greece. So I think it makes sense. We don't know what team he said. I don't know the team either, but I could see Giannis finishing his career
He still
in
has
Greece.
2 years left on his current Bucks deal. Obviously, all the rumors are, will he get traded this offseason or towards the end of the year? We'll find out. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Renee and I are back for